you information to put. It's going to provide you information to put in your toolbox. And you can pull this information out your toolbox as needed. When you're interviewing or interacting with a service member or your family member and they ask you questions about benefits, then you have this information to pull from. Again, it's not to make you a claims agent or certified VFW accredited representative. It is an opportunity for us to provide information to put in your toolbox. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen.
Started the meeting.
Are you all able to see my screen at this time?
It's going to be like a slide.
Are you all able to see my screen at this time?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
We can see it.
Yes.
Yes.
I see it, Dickens.
Thank you. I'm trying, let's get started. As a department service officer or as the post-service officer, we have some duties and responsibilities. What are those duties and responsibilities? Let's start with the mission. What is the mission of as a service officer? What are we supposed to do? Our mission is we are the person that our family members, our service officers, our community come to when they're seeking information about the federal and state benefits or any benefits that can assist them or any resources that they need. When we're servicing our veterans and their family members, we're to do this with dignity and compassion, understanding that we are the link between the veteran, the family member, and that accredited representative. We ask, who are we? We are service members. We are veterans across all 5 branches of the service: the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard. We at one time ourselves were seeking information to get information about our benefits. So we have experience on when someone comes to us seeking information, we understand why they're coming to us, because at one time we were looking for assistance ourselves when it comes to getting information about our benefits. As a service officer, we are the professionals. We understand what you're going through. We understand what the veteran and their family going through. But one thing we are the best recruiters for our department. And I will explain to you later why I say we're the best recruiters. Our duties and responsibilities. According to the VFW Nationals, they have published a post-service officer guide. This guide is to give us information about our duties and responsibilities. There's a wealth of information in this book. I will recommend to each and every one of you all to see about getting a copy of this book. This is a reference tool. This book cost me maybe less than $10. And there are times that I go to it to seek information. So I just recommend to each and every one of you all to get a copy of it, because it is an arsenal for you to get information for your veterans and their family members. What are the do's and don'ts of a service officer? Let's talk about those things we do. As a service officer in Georgia, you serve a very vital function here. You are the one that the veteran comes to, the family comes to, when they're seeking information about what benefits they're entitled to, be it federal benefits, or state benefits or any other resources that can better assist them. When they're coming to you asking about federal benefits, you can tell them about service-connected disabilities where they can receive compensation for those injuries they received while on active duty. There are also veterans who need financial assistance that was not injured on active duty, but we can also direct them to how they can receive what is called pension benefits. And then we have our family members who come to us seeking information about survivor benefits, about death and burial benefits. We also have veterans coming to us about educational benefits. Based off of the era in which they serve, they have seeking benefits on how they can use these educational benefits to go back to school to further their education. Also, we have veterans that come to us that are trying to find a way to acclimate themselves in getting back into the community. So you can give them information about the Veterans Readiness Employment Program, where they can interact with and find new skills that will be able to transition those skills into a civilian community. And also about home loans and letting those veterans know who's eligible for those home loans. When you talk about state benefits, there are state benefits that you can tell about. The ID card. How many of you all have an ID card and you got that ID card free? You can get an ID card from the state free of charge if you are a veteran. You can also get, if you are disabled and eligible, you're able to get a disabled license plate. And they also offer specialty license plates for all branches of service, for Medal of Honor, for Purple Heart, even women's veteran license plates. So our specialty license plates is another benefit that our veterans are entitled to. Our veterans who own homes and eligible or who are 100% disabled, they are eligible to receive homestead tax exemption. You can provide them with information about that. We have veterans coming to us seeking information about hunting and fishing licenses. You can provide them with information about even going to our state parks, getting admission into our state parks free of charge. Also, we have veterans coming to us and family members coming to us asking us about information about nursing homes. As a state benefits, we have 2 nursing homes in the state of Georgia. One is located in Augusta and the other is in Milledgeville. And you can let them know about the nursing homes within our state. And also memorial cemeteries. Veterans who would like to have their last remains placed in a veteran cemetery, we can let them know that we do have military cemeteries in the state of Georgia, and they're located in Glenville and Milledgeville. Again, guys, the commander does not expect you all to know everything, but he does expect for you to know where to go to get that information. On federal benefits, this is a manual here that I recommend that you get a copy of the Federal Benefits Manual, and it gives you information about what federal benefits the veteran is entitled to. And also we have a pamphlet from the state that gives you information about state benefits. These are good references you can have as part of your toolbox to seek information about benefits, either federal or state benefits. What other things do we do as a service officer? A veteran comes to you or a family comes to you and they say, tell me about my benefits. What do I need to do to file a claim for benefits? That's when you are at your best. You can sit down with them and tell them what they need to file a claim for benefits. You will let them know what form they need to use, because depending on the type of benefit will require a specific form. You can let them know what form to fill it out if it's an original claim, or what form to fill out if it's a supplemental claim. If they decide they want to file a claim and take it to the Board of Veterans Appeal, again, there's a different form. So you need to be knowledgeable about the different forms depending on the type of claim that that veteran is seeking. Also, when you're assisting that veteran and they're coming to you saying, I want to file a claim for benefits, you need to know what documents are needed. Assist them with collecting those documents and gathering those documents to support that claim. Go through those documents with the veteran, pull out that information that is needed, and ensure that information is attached to that claim when they are submitting that claim to the VA. Also, you'll have veterans come to you asking you information on how to upgrade their military discharge. And you should be able to provide them information about that. Things we should not do as a post-service officer. We should not file a claim on behalf of the veteran. And the reason why is because post-service officers are not accredited or they're not claims agents. Assist the veteran with gathering those documents. Assist the veteran with preparing the forms. But when it comes to filing that claim, direct the veteran to either the Department of Service officer or to a Georgia Department of Veteran Service field office in your community, and have them to see a VFW accredited representative that can take that information that you assist them collecting and have them to assist them in filing that claim. Understand that everything that we do and all the assistance we provide to our veterans is done at no charge to the veteran. There have been many times I've helped veterans who have contacted me and said, Miss Belinda, I want to pay you for what you've done for me. I want to give you something. And I tell them, I cannot accept any fee, and I enjoy what I do. I do everything in service to you at no cost to you. So understand, all that we do is free of charge. When we're working with that veteran and we're in possession of that veteran's important information, be it the DD-214, some personnel information, treat that information very sensitive, because that's very sensitive information. So treat it very carefully. Do not release that information to others, and do not hold on to the information. I know at times our veterans will ask us, I would like you to hold on to this document for me should I need it in the future. Inform the veteran that you're not to hold on to that information. You're going to give it back to them, and just recommend to them a safe place they can keep those documents. But do not hold on to the documents. Do not release the information. There have been many times I'm interviewing a veteran and their spouse is with them. And sometimes the spouse will start asking me questions. I will always turn to the veteran and say, do I have your permission to discuss your file in the presence of a third party? I have to get their permission to discuss it. If they say yes, then I can discuss it in the presence of a third party. If they say no, that person has to leave that area. So that's how sensitive that information is, that we are not to release it in the presence of another without that veteran's approval. Again, all documents that you handle for the veteran, treat it as very sensitive information, and make sure once you are finished with your interview, give all those documents back to that veteran. Again, we're not to sign any forms. Send that information to a DSO, the Department Service Officer, or send them to the Georgia Department of Veteran Service to see a VFW accredited representative to sign the form. But what you can do is assist them in preparing those documents. We may have veterans that are not able to navigate the computer system. You may have some of these forms on your computer, or you may have some blank forms in your post. You can assist them with helping them fill out the form. But once the form has been filled out, you have to give it back to the veteran, and the veteran needs to file the claim. They can file the claim through e-benefits, and we're going to talk about that avenue a little bit later. Or they can go to the Georgia Department of Veteran Service, and that a VFW accredited representative is going to be able to file that claim for that veteran, and it goes directly to the VA, again, at no charge to the veteran. Or the veteran can mail those documents to the VA Claims Intake Center. But understand, you are not to sign any form or file a claim for the veteran on their behalf. Also, when we're interviewing our veterans, be very cautious on our demeanor. And what I mean is not sometimes what we say, it's sometimes how we say it that may be offensive. Be careful in discussing age and race and religion, or even sexual overtones. I have interviewed veterans that have come to the VFW because they had worked with another service officer that said something that was offensive to them, and they didn't want to work with that service officer anymore. So they came to the VFW. So we are to be at our best, have that professional hat on, and treat others as though we want to be treated. Sometimes a veteran come to us, you're looking at the information, and you don't believe that the information is true. We are not to refuse assisting any veterans or their family members in preparing paperwork or documents in support of the claim. The only time you will refuse assisting them is when you are absolutely sure that the information they're submitting is fraudulent. Other than that, we are to assist them and put our best foot forward and be as professional as we can. Also, don't be afraid to let a veteran know you don't know. They will ask you a question you're not quite sure of the answer. Just let them know that you don't know, but you will get back with them for an answer. Do not give them an incorrect answer, because that's how we establish distrust between the veteran and the service officer, because one, the service officer gave them information that wasn't true, or two, the service officer promised to get back with them about some information and failed to do so. But most of all, don't be afraid to say you don't know, but always say, I will get back with you. We talked about helping our veterans in preparing their packet in support of a claim for benefits. What documents do we need to support our packet? When the VA is considering service connection, the VA is looking for three things. They're looking for that event, that injury or exposure you had while on active duty that caused the disability you're filing a claim for. Two, they're looking for that disability to be diagnosed. And third, they're looking for a medical opinion from a healthcare provider that indicates they reviewed the service treatment records, they reviewed the post-medical records, and based off of their opinion that this disability is related to military service. So when we talk about military documents, That supports that first tier or criteria the VA is looking for. What event, what injury, what exposure happened to the veteran that caused that disability. And the documents they're going to be looking for is that DD-214. The DD-214 has a wealth of information on it. It provides the date of birth, the social security number, the time of service. It talks about awards, locations of tour duty. Also, it provides character of discharge. When you're reviewing that document, you can see if that veteran meets the criteria to be a member of the VFW. That's why I said earlier that we are the best recruiters for our organization, because we have an opportunity to look at that document and see if that veteran is eligible for our organization. And if they're not, you can also refer them to one of the other organizations. But that's how you become the best recruiter for your post and a best recruiter for this department. Also, documents that you can use to support that claim is the information in that military jacket. Their information about where they was, what tour of duty they had, what was the location of tour duty. It may talk about the location and what chemicals they were exposed to. So these documents are the documents needed to assist VA in identifying that event, that injury, or exposure. Your veteran may say to you, I don't have these documents. Where do I go to get these documents? Refer them to the National Archives. The National Archives will have that document. Once the veteran is discharged from the military, those records are sent to the National Archives, and that's where they are. Have the veteran go online, and they can request a copy of their military jacket and their DD-214 or any other military records that they're seeking. I have gone to the Georgia Department of Veterans Service, put my request in, and I had my DD-214 within 2 weeks. So there's multiple ways to get these documents, and there may be some whose documents were part of the fire at the National Archives. Then you can still get information from the National Archives to assist them, but give them that information so they know where to go to help them identify that event, that injury, or exposure. The second criteria towards getting service connection is medical evidence. Those service treatment records, those medical records where you received treatment for an injury while you were on active duty. Go through those documents, those service treatment records with the veteran. Pull out or extract those documents that's relating to that disability they're filing a claim for. Make copies of those documents and attach them to that claim. Also, for those veterans who are receiving treatment with the VA, also go through those records and extract those records that will help support the claim for benefits. For those veterans who are seeking medical treatment from a civilian healthcare provider, assist them with preparing a medical authorization form or the form 21-4142/4142A. That is VA's medical authorization document. You can have them submit that document through the VA and have the VA reach out to those civilian healthcare providers to get that information free of charge. Now let's look at the third criteria towards service connection. That is that nexus letter, that medical opinion. And that doctor is not they don't have to provide an opinion that is absolute. The opinion just has to register 50% or more. And that nexus letter is going to say, I reviewed the service treatment records. I reviewed the post-medical records. And it's in my opinion that is more than likely, or at least as likely as not, the condition is related to military service. And then that document is also going to show the link. They have to provide an explanation or provide rationale showing how that disability is related to military service. So when you're assisting your veterans and interviewing them with information about preparing for a Service Connect claim, then you let them know these are the things that VA is going to be looking for in order to support their claim for benefits. Other documents you may also include with that packet is a personal statement. I always recommend to my veterans to provide a statement about what happened to them in the military to cause that disability. What event they were in, what injury did they sustain, what exposure were they exposed to. Have them to write that in their statement. Provide information about symptoms. And I always highlight symptoms because we are not doctors, so we would not know what the diagnosis is, but we can identify those symptoms. Write those symptoms. If they started in the military and then they didn't manifest themselves into a disability until after they get out, then show a timeline. Show what happened while on active duty and what happened after they were discharged from active duty. In addition to that, they can also get buddy statements, statements from family members that can give information about what their medical condition was prior to service or what their medical condition is after service. Family members have an opportunity to provide information about that service member or that veteran's symptoms because they're seeing those symptoms from a different perspective. So they can be able to provide information to the VA on what they observed. And the personnel statement and the buddy statements are good reference information to give to the VA, because what this does is give the VA a background on what's going on with that disability. I work with veterans files on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes the file does not always give me a clear picture of what's going on with a veteran or what's going on with that disability. But if they provide a personal statement or a buddy statement, that can give me another perspective of what's going on. And this is like the groundwork for VA, because most of the times we get denials for Service Connect disabilities is because VA doesn't understand what's going on. So that personal statement is a very important tool. Also, should a veteran be providing a claim for PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, or MST, military sexual trauma, these cases require a personal statement. They have to explain exactly what happened that caused them. And post-traumatic stress disorder is just what it is. It's those symptoms you are displaying after you experience the event. So these definitely are statements that you can assist those veterans with getting that personal statement. You know, asking them to get their family members to present a statement, or even fellow comrades to provide a statement on their behalf. And should they be submitting a claim for PTSD or MST, and for ensure that they, submit a statement to support those claims. Not only do we interact with veterans seeking information from us about federal benefits, about state benefits, or any other resources that they may need, we at one time come in contact with homeless veterans. And we have a large homeless veterans population in the state of Georgia. So when our veterans come into you because they're homeless, be familiar with the resources in your community. Know where the shelters are. Know what resources are in your community. Know where to go to get the information to assist them. Know who the VFW homeless coordinator is, and that is Ms. Vita Brooks. She is also the Georgia Department of Veteran Service homeless coordinator. and she has a wealth of knowledge. Anytime someone contacts me asking me for information about homeless veterans or any resources to assist the homeless veteran, I always refer them to her because that's her area of expertise. Know who your coordinator is, but most of all, know what services are in your community to help our homeless veterans. Also, you may interact with a veteran or interview a veteran that wants to know, how do I upgrade my military discharge? And those are for those discharge characteristics that are other than honorable. Explain to them that they have to go to their branch of service to request an upgrade on their military discharge. Direct them to the website where they can go to get that process started. When they're preparing an argument in support of an upgrade, should they be service connected for a mental health condition to include PTSD, or maybe a traumatic brain injury, or even a sexual assault or harassment, and in sometimes a sexual orientation that may have caused their character to discharge to be something other than honorable, they can use these criteria as an argument for a military discharge. But also explain to them that VA does not determine an upgrade for a military discharge. That veteran will have to go back to their branch of service, submit the documents that's located here to their branch of service for that military upgrade. That is not the responsibility of the VA. We have some resources. We talked about a lot of things this evening. We talked about our duties and responsibilities. We talked about the things we do and the things we don't do. We talked about the documents needed to support a claim for benefits, getting those military records, medical records, buddy statements, personal statements, nexus letters. Those things are what is needed to support a claim. And as the service officer, that's one of our duties, is to assist that veteran with identifying what type of claim they want to file, assist them with gathering the documents to support that claim, and then directing them to an accredited representative that can assist them with filing that claim. Understanding that when we're doing all this, we're doing it free of charge, and we are understanding that at one time we were in the same spot seeking benefits or seeking information about our benefits. So right now I have for you a list of resources where you can go. I have these websites where you can go to get information to put in your toolbox. So should these questions be asked of you, you know exactly where to go to get the answers to the questions. Also about homeless resources. Websites on information about homeless resources in your community or statewide resources to help our homeless veterans. This is my contact information. This is Ms. Brooks' contact information, and this is the website to the Georgia Department of Veterans Service. So guys, based off your questions, this concludes my presentation. Any questions at this time?
This is Cindy Otto with 4583. Is it possible, Belinda, to get a copy of your slideshow?
Yes, that is possible. I'm hoping that the commander will put it either on the service officer, under the service officer icon on the website. And I understand that these training sessions are going to be loaded on the YouTube site for the VFW Georgia Department. Any other questions?
Bill Miles, District 2 Commander. I know the answer to the question, but I'm asking it because a lot of people don't know this. You talked about nexus letters. Are VA doctors required to do a nexus letter for our veterans?
It depends on what clinic you go to. they're not required. They can do it, but it depends on the services that you're receiving treatment from. And the reason why I say that is some clinics, the healthcare provider has no problems with doing the statement. And then you will go to other clinics where they're told by their administrator they cannot. So it depends on the relationship that you have with your healthcare provider. So that question, there is a directive that says that they can do it, but depends on what location they're at if they will do it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I knew the answer. I just wanted to make sure everybody else knew that. So a lot of times when depending on what clinic the veteran goes to, you may have to refer the veteran to go get a private doctor to review all these records and get that nexus letter. Because I will tell you, I've seen several claims over the last 6 years I've been doing this that got denied, but after the veteran went back to a civilian doctor, got a nexus letter, they seen an increase or got the original claim approved. So that's just knowledge for everybody out there.
Thank you, Commander. Any other questions at this time?
Glenda, this is Tony. There is a question in the chat box. It says, what was the name of the service officer book and where do we get it?
Comrade Vita Brooks is the VFW as well as the Georgia Department of Veteran Service Homeless Coordinator. Her contact information is at the end of my presentation. These slides are available to you, and you can contact her through her website or through her email address.
No, the question was about the service officer book. Where can they get the service officer book?
The service officer book, you can get this from National Store. Like I said, this book is less than $10. I bought mine. Matter of fact, I got it when we was at the national conference. I got a copy there. But you can order this book through the VFW store. Like I said, it's less than $10. Any other questions?
Ms. Bowden, for everybody's information, you talked earlier about the national archives, but as my understanding, they still shut down as far as trying to get medical records and all that. I know you said 2 weeks ago you tried to get some paperwork, but as for during this pandemic, they shut down for I don't know how long, because I've been trying to get some medical records for a person, for one of the clients I'm talking to.
And that is correct, sir. That is correct, sir. The National Archives has suspended routine requests for these documents as a result of the pandemic. Right now, they're only honoring emergency requests for these documents.
I failed to mention that too, except for emergencies, so that's just a word to the wise for everybody.
Well, if I may interject on that as well, the thing with the archives is even with the emergency request, everyone, normally those take roughly about a week to get that DD-214. It's been my experience in the Brunswick area in Camden County that could take at least a month because when they did go to COVID, they went to bare minimum staffing, and that staff is starting to come back, but they're still playing catch up on emergency requests themselves before they get to the general inquiries for service records and stuff like that.
And thank you, I appreciate that comment. When I mentioned earlier about me getting my DD-214 in 2 weeks, that was prior to COVID. I went into the Georgia Department of Veteran Service office, asked one of the representatives to submit a request for me to the archives for my DD-214. And I got that DD-214 in 2 weeks. That was prior COVID. Right now, because of the pandemic, they are at minimum staff, so they're not able to process those routine requests. They're only processing emergency requests, and that's because of maybe a death in the family. Any other questions at this time? Thank you all for your comments. I do appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Service officer.
Yes,
Go
ma'am.
ahead, Commander.
Sorry. First of all, let me tell you, that was an outstanding class. Just to do a couple of administrative questions to clear that up. The service officer books are mandated that each post have one. Now, each post in the district should have a service officer book that you can get from the VFW. Also, once a year, prior to the pandemic, the department will order them, but they are $9, and you can get that from each individual post funds. But that is something, a required issue for every post must have the service officer manual. And the two other things. Once again, the class is outstanding. Now, the power of attorney. The power of attorney, and I know they're going to go into the next class, but the power of attorney is very important. I'm going to have Comrade Belinda talk about that real quick as soon as I get off. About the power of attorney, how do we access that, and the importance of that going forward as far as our representation. Also, as the VFW organization, we are required, as Comrade Belinda stated, to represent each individual. Now, it is one individual that we cannot legally represent, and that's a person with a dishonorable discharge. If a person has a dishonorable discharge, what we would do is give them advice and tell them how to go about getting an upgrade prior to us assisting them. Now, if they want to put in for a hospital benefits and things of that nature, that is completely different. That is given towards the disability itself. But as far as representation, as far as getting a POA, if a person have a dishonorable discharge, the VFW cannot represent that person. I'm not going to go ahead and go any further than that, but Comrade Belinda, if you could go ahead and tell them on this class, or you're going to have it in your next class about the power of attorney and how that works.
I can speak about the power of attorney. It may be presented also in our claims class. When you're talking of power of attorney, what that is that the veteran has given the VFW authorization to speak to VA on their behalf. They have to fill out a form called a 2122. They can access this form through e-benefits. Go to the section that says representation, click on that, scroll all the way down to where it says VFW. And when you see VFW, you see a slew of VFW locations. And the reason why you see that is because we have 52 locations. Georgia Department of Veteran Service have 52 locations throughout the state of Georgia where you have accredited VFW representatives at that location. I just always recommend to the veteran to click on the one that says Floyd Building Memorial Drive, because that's the headquarters. It doesn't matter which one they click on, just click on one of them, complete that application. That application is sent to another VA application. It's called the State Enterprise Portal, or other known as SEP, that I have access to. I look at those applications, and I always request that my veterans send me a copy of the DD-214 so I can verify the character of discharge. And as the commander said, if it's a character of discharge that is a bad conduct discharge, I cannot accept that. That's why I always request that they have a copy or send me a copy before I am able to approve that application. And it's once that application is approved, within 15 minutes of me hitting the accept button, I have access, or VFW has access to that file. Or that veteran can go to a Georgia Department of Veterans Service field office, bring with them a copy of the DD-214, and at that location, they can go ahead and submit that form, and it goes, like I said, directly to the VA, and within 15 minutes, we're able to see your file. So the veteran can do it either way, but understand that you cannot sign that form. You cannot sign that form. I cannot stress it enough. You cannot sign that form. It has to be signed by an accredited VFW representative. Right now, I have that responsibility to sign the forms through eBenefit, or you can send them to the Georgia Department of Veterans Service, where a VFW accredited representative can fill it out there. But remember, you cannot sign that document. And I know we talked about things we can't do. And the reason why we can't do these things if we're not accredited, because we put the organization in a situation of being held liable should something go wrong with that application. And you don't need a lawsuit that's against you, the department, and nationals because we did something incorrect. For example, if you're assisting a veteran and they gave you their packet thinking that you can submit it for them, and you didn't submit it on time, it didn't get to VA. So that veteran's coming back to you and says, hey, I submitted my packet with you in January 2021. VA didn't receive it until March. So now you have caused problems with the effective date. So that's why it's imperative that you, once you have finished working with that veteran, with that packet, have them to go to a Georgia Department of Veterans Service field office to have those documents uploaded so it will not affect the effective date. That's why I stress to you all, please do not sign any documents as an accredited representative because you put yourself, the department, and nationals in a liable situation. Are there any other questions?
Drew Keenan here.
Go ahead, sir.
Just a question of checking in. You said you would tell us how to check in by telephone, which, and that never happened.
Right now, we are recording, so we have you on recording as checking in, sir. Are there any others that are on the phone? Once I finish with my class, I want you to check in before we start our next class.
Yeah, this is Lamar Pals of 658 out of Macon, Georgia. I got in a little bit late because my computer crashed, so I ended up logging in to watch this class over my cell phone. So I saw 95% of it, and I will get a copy of the slides and review the rest. But it was very informative, and as a new service officer for the Macon, it was very helpful for me to learn what I should and should not be doing. But thank you for the class.
Thank you. If there are no questions at this time,
we
what
have
we're going to do is take, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that I got checked in as well. I was about a minute late and you just started, and I didn't know if there was check-in previous. So, but I'm Tom Reisman for Post 8452.
Comrades, this is Tony Dobbins, the state adjutant. This is all being recorded. So you that are on video, we have you captured already. So you don't have to worry about checking in. Just the ones on the phones that we can't see who you are because it's by your phone number that we need to check in. But everyone does not need to check in because it's just being recorded and we have you captured. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Steve Busby, 4392. I'm checking in because I'm on the phone. Got me?
We got you.
5897.
Next.
Hey, I got a bit of information for you guys that are having problems getting personnel records. In the last 5 minutes, I went into va.gov and signed in with my DS logon, like you would with eBenefits. Went to request records. It took me to Mill Connect, which is part of the Defense Personnel Records Information System, or DPRIS. And I requested all 5 categories of my OMPF, cleared and received it in 5 minutes. So those of you that are having problems can get in that way if your service members are already registered and have a DS logon.
Yeah,
Thank you for that information.
I have one question. Harold Eckhoff from District 7, post 7331. I know last year when we did the schooling before the COVID, all the information or slides were put onto our Department of Georgia webpage where all you new service officers could download all the information that they would need what we're going over. And I'm just wondering if that's going to be done again for some of our newer service officers.
Yes, sir, that will be these slides will be uploaded. Some of them are a little different than the ones that's on the website at this time. And also, I understand this class will be uploaded to YouTube.
Okay,
so the information will be available.
And you did a great job. I've been quite a few of these, and it's, like I said, very informational. And like I said, just pay attention to what's being said, guys and ladies, and you'll learn a lot.
Comrade Belinda, this is Paul Richardson with the VFW Post 2667. I'm service officer here in Noonan, Georgia. I'm on my phone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any others at this time? Because I would like to give you all a 5-minute break before Commander Miles come on to give his presentation. If there are no other questions, we'll have 5 minutes. It is 6:56 at this time. At 7:01, can you be back at your seats for the next class?
Health and va.gov. Technology is always training. But before I get into training, there's a little hiccup on my slide, so I'm going to just wing it. I gave up my PowerPoint Ranger tab when I retired from the Army in 2015, so we'll just get a listen to my wonderful voice, and the slides will go up with Belinda's on the state page. So during Belinda's presentation, she talked about, we can't sign nothing, this, which, you can't because you're not an accredited service officer. But eBenefits and My Health Vet, eVet, and VA.gov is an option to our veterans and their families to file disability claims. And what you're doing is you're just assisting them in the process. As we know, automation is great, but we have several veterans who just, in some cases, don't own a computer, and others just don't have the knowledge to be able to file a claim or file for any other benefits. So all you're doing is assisting them, and when they go to submit that claim as a fully developed claim, they're logged on their account that's been created for them, and that's their digital signature, not yours. So this is just another tool for you to assist them in a process. So what is the purpose of assisting our veterans? To assist our veterans and their families with VA benefits in a timely manner, provide them tools to manage their health care, and navigate the VA and its multiple resources. Originally, I was supposed to talk about eBenefits and Health eVet, but by March of this year, all of those two programs will be under the va.gov webpage. It is already in the process. If you log on to va.gov, you will see that the logon screen for that looks very similar to the eBenefits. What those tools do for you is you can manage your healthcare, prescriptions, secure messaging, schedule appointments, view test results, apply for healthcare. I know I get a lot of vets that complain about sitting on the phone for 45 minutes and longer, just trying to schedule an appointment or to order their prescriptions. By having a va.gov account, they can go to secure messaging and talk directly to their doctors. And the policy is they have 72 business hours to reply to your message. I've been using it since I retired from the Army and have had good luck with it. Just this past week, Commander Willis helped me with a veteran who was having some serious problems with medications and getting appointments. And the problem was we couldn't get his e-benefits account up and running because for some reason he wasn't showing up in the system. We got that fixed, and within 3 days, we was able to get all his prescriptions filled along with his medical supplies, along with getting all 3 appointments that he needed through using e-benefits in the va.gov portal. So it's a great tool that empowers our veterans. In a lot of cases, when a veteran don't know how to navigate this, their family member, I've even had grandchildren come in and sit down and show them how to use these tools to assist their loved one. The other thing that va.gov assists you with is education. You can look up your payment history from your GI Bill. You can change your education benefits. Towards the end of my career, that option came open, and just recently, now the GI Bill has no expiration date. So being able to go in there and see where your benefits are is a great tool. Also, you can compare your GI Bill benefits by various schools. So as a veteran is looking to attend a school, they can compare it to see which is going to give them the most bang for the buck, and of course, apply for educational benefits. Of course, we all know about, filing for disability appeals. You can look up where your claim's at, where the status is of your appeal. You can look up the payment history. You can upload evidence. I personally think this is a great tool. In several cases, the VA has tried to say they didn't have evidence, went back into the veteran's e-benefits account. And as I said, this is all getting switched over to va.gov, but was able to show where we uploaded the documents and proved that those documents were already in there in the original claim. And so when they reevaluated it, they backdated the increase back to the original date. So I like the fact that the veteran or their family members have the ability to see everything that's been uploaded, see where they're at in the process. You can file for your disability increases, and you can file a claim for compensation along with Belinda hit on pension and all the other programs. You can do all of this through va.gov online instead of doing the manual forms. And once again, when you mail something in, it's kind of hard to track because you could try to send it register mail, but the problem with that is if you look at the mailing addresses, they're PO boxes, you can't do that. So there's no way to track it. By doing it online, you have an ability to track it and show what you've done and haven't done. And that's a great benefit to the veteran and their family. Records. You can apply for your records. You can get your veteran ID cards, medical records. You can download your benefit letters. There's many, Belinda hit on license plates, hunt license, stuff like this. Before, you used to have to request a letter from the VA office, and it would take a little while to get it. Now you can go online in less than 5 minutes, log onto your account, pull up your benefits letter, print it out. Now you have a letter that shows who you are, what benefits you're getting, and that your eligibility is for whatever it is case may be. For instance, if you're a 100% disabled veteran in the state of Georgia, you get a 3-year hunting fishing license at a very discounted price. In many counties throughout the state, if you're 100% disabled, and some states or some counties have other disability levels, you can get a tax break on your home taxes. So at a click of a button, you can have this letter. You can also do your change of address, and it's right on the spot. You're going in there, you're changing your address. That way you're not having a lapse in time of especially when you're trying to get your medications and stuff. It's going to be updated in a very timely fashion. And of course, we've already talked about requesting military records. So I'm not really going to talk too much about e-benefits and my health because, as I said, those are transforming over to va.gov. I had a lengthy conversation with a tech a couple days ago because I had submitted an e-benefits claim under e-benefits prior to going on vacation at Christmas time. When I returned, the family had all their supporting documents. I helped them scan them up, loaded up, was ready to send it, fully developed claim, but the problem was we couldn't find the claim under e-benefits. It had already been transferred over to va.gov, and we was able to go ahead and process that through. So everything I'm going to talk about is done through va.gov. So if you're familiar with e-benefits or Vet eHealth, if you look at those logon screens to your logon screens of the va.gov now, very similar. You're going to have your button of log in or register. When you go to register, of course, the first thing you want to do is, you you want to see the Veterans DD-214. Belinda talked about that. That's how you look. It's also a great opportunity to see the opportunity if they're going to be eligible for the VFW. And if they're not eligible for the VFW, refer them to the American Legion. Because when you, I like statistics. I looked up my numbers for the last 6 years in our post, and between me and our other 2 service officers, about almost 50% of the qualified veterans who qualified for the VFW have joined our post, and another 25% we were able to get them in our local American Legion, and some of those also have joined the DAV. So that's a win-win across the board for VSOs. So by doing the VA.gov and along with the e-benefits and my vet e-health, you had to start a DS logon. You can also log on through ID.me. Just a little side note, ID.me is also helpful on the civilian side because it shows that you're a veteran, and on many web pages, if you use ID.me to log in, you'll get various discounts. So it's definitely beneficial to the veterans and their families. So I'm going to give you the steps to success. So when I get a call that a veteran or a family member wants to file for benefits, because it's not always a veteran, we can assist with family members as far as, if the veteran died of service-connected disability, aid and attendance, also pension for widows, depending on their eligibility. So when I go to set up the appointment, I say, hey, I'm going to need a DD-214 because there's no reason to go forth if I can't prove that they're a veteran that's eligible to apply. And as the commander brought up, we don't assist those who have dishonorable discharge. We just refer them how to get their discharge upgraded. That way we can assist them down the road. Before you can even do, to me, be good at doing claims, you need to be familiar with CFR 38. That is the Bible and the law that governs how adjudicators give the ratings to our veterans and their family members on claims. This is also a great tool when you get that letter back after doing a claim and it says you received, for instance, 20%. And it says on the letter why you got 20%. It also tells you why you didn't get the next level of that. That comes out of CFR 38. And when you can show that in black and white to the veterans and their families, it makes that letter make more sense. And normally they'll go, okay, yep, I don't qualify for that next level, so I did receive the appropriate rating. We already talked about the archives.gov. I'm not going to beat that up, but I will tell you, I know a lot of people do the manual, mail it in. I highly discourage that, and here's why. You're not actually applying online. What you're doing is initiating the request online. And when you get to the final screen, it'll give you the option to print. What it's going to do is print 2 pages. The first page, which is very important, has a confirmation number. That confirmation number goes to the veteran or the family member for future reference. And on that is also the fax number and mailing address where to mail your stuff. The one page, which a lot of people don't pay attention to, everybody wants to mail everything directly to the archives. If you look at the last page of that form, it breaks down by service and time of service when you served of which agency you should be mailing these applications to, because not all military and medical records are stored in the same place by branch of service. So you may have to send that application to 2 different locations. Have that confirmation number will play if after 90 days, if you read the web page. Of course, we're under different times because of COVID. It says give them up to 90 days. On a couple cases, 90 days hit, we called them. We were able to give them that confirmation number, and they said, "Oh, yep, hey, we haven't processed this," and then they expedited it. If you mailed it in, you're not going to get. They're going to say, "Okay, yeah, we'll get." Basically going to get to it when they get to it. At least the veteran has something in their possession showing they submitted for it. And what I do is I fax it, and I mail a hard copy. We just keep envelopes. Our post buys the stamps, and that shows the veteran and their family, hey, we care about what you're doing, and we're trying to help you out. And it costs less than $1 for a stamp and an envelope to take care of that part. So now they're gonna come to your office. Of course, we already talked about you want to be professional. You want to make wherever you're going to be at inviting and comfortable, and most importantly, it needs to be somewhere where other people aren't walking in, because you're going to be talking about stuff with the veteran that they probably don't want other people talking about. And sometimes it's hard to talk about things like PTSD. I've done a couple military sexual trauma claims, and I will tell you, you have to be really on your A game, very compassionate, and know what you're doing, because many of you know me. I'm a big guy, and the ones I've done were with females. It was very difficult for them to talk about it, but once I got them talking about it and got the information, I was able to help them in the process of filing that claim and getting them the disability that they deserved. So you're going to apply for a Premier account through the VA.gov, because what that does, that's going to give you all the access to all the options from secure messaging, order prescriptions, doing the claims, all the things I've already discussed. Also, DS Logon for the military retirees out there. You can also use that DS Logon to log on to your TRICARE benefits. And there's numerous other web pages that will accept DS Logon, and a couple of them are job searching websites for our for our veterans. So now, once you get that DS Logon for the veteran, during that process, they're going to have to answer, you're going to get them a logon and a password. They're going to have to create 5 security questions. What I do is I take a blank piece of paper, the top I write the veteran's name. As I help them go through the process, I write down the logon, I write down the password, we write down the security questions. You also have to now pick an image for additional security. We write that down. When that veteran leaves, all that logon information goes with them. All I'm doing is assisting them to get to that point. And from the get-go, I ensure them that, hey, all I'm here for is to assist you. You're doing this process. I'm just here to assist you through the process. And I explain the difference between an accredited service officer and a post-service officer. And once they understand that, you're just assisting them. And when you explain to them the benefits of them having these accounts, and all the veterans, the majority of the veterans I deal with are glad they're able to now manage their medical, the appointments, the prescriptions, able to see where their claims at, see what's uploaded. Upload records themselves are very pleased with this option. By all means, you can still use it, Department of Georgia Veteran Service Office, or our department VSO, but this puts the veteran and their family in the driver's seat. And at no time, ever tell a veteran, oh, for this you can get this percentage. When they don't get that, they're not going to be mad at the VA. They're going to be mad at you. So highly discourage that. And like I said, when they walk out the door, they got that piece of paper, and I tell them, hey, in the future, you need me to help you, you got to bring that piece of paper, because you're going to have to log on into your account, and then I can talk you through what you need to do whatever action you're wanting to do. On also that piece of paper, you initiate the claim, because that's what you're doing. And the great thing about initiating that claim online, your initiation date's that date. It tells you when your expiration date is, which is exactly 12 months. You have 12 months to get all the documentation from DBQs, buddy statements, and all the stuff that Belinda talked about, uploaded into the system. And then once you got everything, the veteran's satisfied they got everything on their claim, they submit it as a fully developed claim. During the process of going through, if they claim PTSD, there's a questionnaire. They got to answer a bunch of questions. It will say you need DBQ number such and such. I write down all those numbers for the veteran. I even go one step further. I print them out while they're in my office, and I actually keep blank ones in folders, and I just pull them out and I hand them to them, so they've already got it. And I explain to them what a DBQ is. I explain to them a Nexus letter. If you go to the VA webpage, there's examples of Nexus letter. I give them a copy of that example so they can take that to their doctor to do that Nexus letter. And as I said earlier in the other class, a lot of VA doctors will not do a Nexus letter, so they may have to seek out private doctors to get that. Also, talk to your veterans and ask them, hey, have you seen any private doctors for these conditions you're claiming? If so, tell them they need to go get all these medical records, and those need to be uploaded. Buddy statements were talked about. The only thing I want to add to that is a buddy statement holds a lot more weight if it's notarized. I've talked to several adjudicators, and they have told me that a notarized buddy statement holds more weight. Also, we overlook sometimes looking at the veterans' awards and evaluation reports. I had a veteran who they said was not in Vietnam, but luckily he was an NCO in the Army, and he had an evaluation report, and it showed the APOA addresses for his unit, which was a Korea-based unit, and we submitted that and was able to prove that he was in Korea. So, you know, you can, and the other thing, had some vets get their awards and found out they had an award that they didn't know they had. So that's kind of a win-win for the veteran. One of the other things that I talk with veterans through in doing their claim through the VA.gov process is, we'll say they're going to claim left leg, lower back PTSD. I tell them, hey, let's get vanilla folders, and we at our post we purchase them, and what we do is on there in big letters we write left leg in one, lower back on the other one, PTSD. Then when they get all their medical records, for each thing they have in their medical records, they put it in the appropriate folder. And we'll just say they're claiming left leg, lower back, and that day when they went to the doctor or sick call, whatever the case may be, the doctor's seen them for both. I tell them, hey, make a copy of that and put one in each folder. The reason that is that when it comes time to upload, and I will tell you one of the things I'm very impressed with the VA.gov, for those that had used the old e-benefits process, that was the worst process, was uploading the supporting documents. You could only do about 20 pages. I found that 20 pages is kind of the safe number of doing your upload. I just uploaded over 150 pages of documents yesterday on VA.gov, and it took me less than 5 minutes. E-benefits, that would took me over an hour, easy. So I guess, you know, that looks like that's going to be a great benefit for us and the veterans as far as getting stuff uploaded. But when you go to upload, if you got left leg and there's, we'll just say 40 pages of medical records, you take that first 20, you load it up, and when you save it, because you got to save the file to be able to upload it on the website, you label it left leg part 1. Next one, left leg part 2. And what that does for the adjudicator, that really it takes less time to adjudicate that case, because when they look at your claim in left leg and they look, oh, wait a minute, here's the 2 files for left leg, it's going to expedite that process. And then you as the veteran are ensured that they're seeing everything for your left leg, your lower back. They're not having to sift through hundreds and hundreds of pages. I recently did a disability claim for a veteran who just left the military, and he came out of the IDES process. For those who don't know what that is, Individual Disability Evaluation System. He was med boarded, and I had to upload over 1,000 pages of his medical records. He had had multiple surgeries after he got injured in Afghanistan. So imagine trying to sift through 1,000 pages of medical records for each item that claimed, and I believe it was over 20 some different items the veteran claimed. This just helps them. Belinda touched on the letter of justification. These adjudicators don't know you. You may have an adjudicator that's from the Navy and you were in the Army. So what I do is I help the family put together a letter, and it's not a big long letter. It's more of a bullet type letter for those from the Army, because I'm Army, retired Army, kind of what the bullets types you use for NCOERs and wards. And one is you're going to tell them, hey, this was my job in the military, and give a brief description of that. You're going to tell them the different things you were exposed to, from loud noises. When I went in the military, they were still running in Army boots. I put that in my claim. I made sure they knew I was airborne air assault. I also made sure they knew I did air assault missions in Iraq, that I had my Arrowhead device. And I justified all the things. And that's going to paint a better picture for the adjudicator when they're doing the adjudication process. As I said earlier, you're going to want to scan all those documents. 20 pages seems to be the magic number. I've been doing it that way for the last almost 6 years, so I guess I'm going to stick to it. And then once they have all their documentation, the veteran has all their stuff, then they can go in and they can review everything, because you can go all the way back to the first step, from when they put their name, social security number, date of birth, all that stuff. Go through the whole thing, make sure all their I's are dotted, T's crossed. If they want your assistance, you can assist them. And at the end, once they're satisfied that they got everything they need, then they can submit, and now that's a fully developed claim with a digital signature. The only thing I want to add that I did miss, I realized, was in the questionnaire, it's pretty, for those who've done e-benefits, VA.gov's similar, a little different, but everything is questions that the veteran will be able to answer. It's about the veteran. And the last questions from, if you're claiming PTSD, you're gonna have to do a questionnaire. If you military sexual trauma, you're gonna have to answer questionnaires. And in there, you're also gonna be asked who you want to assign as your power of attorney. As Belinda said, it's not us. It's not the post-service officer. We're the grassroots folks just assisting them. And you would pick the VFW of the Floyd building, I believe, because I was just on there yesterday. I think there's 5 different ones. But as Belinda said, it doesn't matter as long as you pick one of those. And then they submit their claim. Normally, Belinda will tell you, I don't reach out to her too much. It's when the claim, if there's an issue when the claim comes back, or a claim, I've had some claims all of a sudden just disappear out of the system. But the great thing was, you can log into their account and you can show where you uploaded stuff, all the times you logged on, and you can pretty much narrow it down when they submitted their claim. I had that happen last summer with a veteran from our post, and we did an appeal because we had to resubmit. Did an appeal because we showed that, hey, look, right here's where we uploaded all the files a year ago, and they did go back and backdate everything. They found that for whatever reasons, his file had dumped out of the system. So that is why I prefer the online method, because it gives the veteran and their family the ability to see what's going on, and it gives you all the tools I've mentioned. Is there any questions? Any questions?
Billy James from Post 4583. You talked about the Premier benefits page. Is that still having to be validated, even though through the VA, through like your VA clinic, even though you register, they still have to get something through the clinic to be a Premier account?
That's a great question, sir. So I just went through that with the vet back before the new changes. So what you're doing is you're doing what they call remote proofing. You're identifying who you are. When you do the Premier account, the veteran will have 3 minutes to answer 4 questions. Those 4 questions are derived from their taxes and different database information. For example, it may say, which one of these following phone numbers is a past number of yours? And the 5th answer will always be none of the above. I've had veterans answer none of the above to 3 out of 4 questions and get remote proofing. So don't freak out when some vets will freak out. Oh, no, those aren't mine. No, it's okay. Now, what they've done, what you were talking about, sir, is we used to, if the veteran got locked out, the only way you could create the Premier account was to take them to the VA administrative office, and some CBOFs were able to do it. But now there's additional ways to remote proof. And when you click on it, it'll walk you through it. To include, you can call the number on there and they'll walk you through the whole process. So I haven't had to take anybody down to a clinic in the past over a year. So that's actually beneficial, because like I live up Northeast Georgia. It really sucked loading a veteran up and driving all the way to Atlanta just for them to show two forms of ID so they would go,
yeah,
approved for Premier account. Does that answer your question?
Agree. I would agree, because I had to go down to Savannah from Hinesville, Jessup area, which is about like a 45-minute drive one way to establish my own Premier account.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm an hour and a half from the VA, so there's 3 hours just in driving time. So yeah, I'm glad we're able to do the remote proofing now. And just since you brought that up, so those that don't know, e-benefits has been around since 2007. It's not something new. Even though I've attended several of these trainings, a lot of our service officers have no clue what e-benefits is. And now, as I said earlier, they're switching over to va.gov. And I was on the phone for about 2 hours with a tech, and their goal is to have that system fully up and running by the end of March of this year. So I'm sure there's going to be glitches just like there were in e-benefits, but I will tell you the thing, I watched e-benefits over the last 6 years since I retired from the Army and got involved in this, is it just got better and better. So I'm hoping lessons learned from e-benefits will roll over to va.gov, and hopefully it'll be very similar to e-benefits, because I will tell you, I had very few problems with e-benefits as far as helping veterans file their claim.
Mike McGee with Post 2872. e-benefits is, they always have a niche in that system. Is it going to get any better anytime soon?
I'm assuming, sir, when you're talking about the niche, you're talking about
The
how
system is always down on the weekend.
Yeah, well, that was, so you got to realize how many veterans are in the United States. So that server is handling a lot of incoming and outgoing data. So you got to have maintenance time. But the big glitch with e-benefits was you would get kicked off the server. The only thing that was nice and they fixed back when it first came out, you would be typing up the veteran's information and answer the questions and kick you out, and you ended up going back to screen one. It got better over the last couple of years. If you got kicked out, it took you back to the last screen you were on. The screen you were on when you got kicked out more than likely wouldn't be there, but the one before it would. So you weren't having to go back and do so much work to finish up what you were doing. And then the other issue that I experienced all the time was the uploading of documents. And as I said earlier, I loaded up over 150 pages of documents here the other day in less than 5 minutes. I was impressed. I clicked, submit, boom, click, submit, boom, and I had it all uploaded. It was fast as I've ever seen the documents get loaded on for a disability claim. So I'm hoping that's going to continue.
With that,
any other questions?
Oh, one more question. With that, I guess they call it bad discharge. They're going to talk about that tonight?
Well, bottom line, sir, if a veteran has a bad conduct discharge, we can't help them apply for benefits. But what you can do is you can assist them in doing a discharge upgrade. I've only done 2 of those. One was a veteran who actually I was stationed with in Iraq. He came home, popped hot for marijuana, was kicked out. And he then when he got out, he was diagnosed with PTSD. So he took his PTSD diagnosis and said, hey, when he got kicked out of the military because he was doing marijuana because he had PTSD, and they didn't try to rehabilitate him or anything. They just kicked him out, and his did get upgraded to a general discharge, which then I was able to assist the veteran in filing a disability claim.
Well, maybe just for your information, maybe somebody can help me on this. Give me some feedback on this. So that's a DD form 149. That means if it's been more than 15 years, okay, you understand? More than 15 years for that form. And if it's less than 15 years, it's a DD 293. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, it was just for your information. Everybody probably know, but I was just digging through my files.
No. I won't spell out assumptions. And there's several people on here who already said they're first-time service officers. So that's what this is all about, is putting that kind of information out there, because it is a lot. I will tell you, but I'm going to tell you the big dividends are, and the reason I got involved in doing this was I came back and I just seen that when I transferred my membership and I went through as service officer to try to fix my benefits coming out of the military off active duty, they had no clue. They didn't know what CFR 38 was, knew nothing about e-benefits. And I'm like, I just went through this whole process, and then I decided, hey, here's a place where I can make a difference. And as I said earlier, I've been doing this for almost 6 years. I've done over 150 claims. I've recouped over $300,000 in back benefits in those past almost 6 years. And I live in Podunk up in Northeast Georgia in the mountains. So I can't even imagine what a service officers in the bigger cities could be doing. And like I said, I'm all about numbers. 50% of about 50% of the qualified vets we've helped through our 3 service officers in our post. In the 6 years I've been in my post, we've put about 50% of them in the VFW, and then another 25% in the American Legion. So that's 75% of the vets we've helped are joining a local VSO. And that's a win-win, because bottom line, that's another voice on Capitol Hill for us in the fight for maintaining and trying to improve our benefits.
And I retired from the post office about 2 years ago, and they had a pamphlet came out with the bad discharge. And if you're a Vietnam vet, you got the advantage for some reason, because they're doing PTSD and brain trauma. So we need to check that out too. So if you run into somebody with that bad discharge or dishonorable discharge, you can probably work with them. Vietnam vet. Now, Persian Gulf and the rest of them is going to be a little problem.
No, actually not, sir. All the ones I've done for Iraq and Afghanistan have gotten approved. And the
Okay.
same thing they're doing for Vietnam vets is because a combat veterans, getting a combat veterans discharge upgraded is a whole lot easier than a garrison soldier, because you can refer back to, hey, they were deployed, PTSD, depression, anxiety, numerous issues they could have acquired from their deployment could have contributed to whatever the unacceptable behavior they had when they returned off deployment or later on, and then of course it also depends, did they get in trouble 3 years after they went on deployment, because normally, but these things surfaces years later, as we're seeing. We got Vietnam vets are, coming out years later and really having serious PTSD issues now, because a lot of times they compartmentalize this stuff and then whatever triggers it, and it comes out of nowhere. So, but it is easier to get those approved, a combat veteran with deployment or deployments under the belt.
Thanks for the information. That's good. That's good information.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, comrades?
I just want to bring up to the table, I'm Ray Rodriguez, post 7331. I'm the service officer there. I'm a Vietnam veteran myself. I did 2 combat tours in Vietnam. I was in Kuwait 1991, and obviously in Iraq for 14 months, 2004, 2005. When I came back, I just moved here about 5 years ago, and I went to the VA hospital in Savannah to request a sleep apnea test. At VA, it was approved. I submitted my claim and they disapproved it. Obviously, based on what I heard so far, I need to submit buddies' letters to certify that, because they couldn't find my records from Vietnam. So how did I go from here?
Yes, sir. So those that know me know I keep it real. So I'm just going to be honest with you. I've only gotten 2 sleep apneas after the fact. Obviously, if the veteran got diagnosed sleep apnea while they were in the military, I've seen all those except one get approved. And we went back and appealed it and got it approved. I've only gotten 2 approved after the fact. And one was, and both of them had the buddy statements. I will tell you that's a real hard uphill battle. But the one that I just went back and redid another one, the veteran's doctor, he got a new doctor, and he said he was willing to do that nexus letter. We talked about nexus letters, both Belinda and I, and they wrote in the nexus letter, and they did him a solid. They said that his sleep apnea was associated with his military service, and it got approved. His appeal got disapproved, and a few years later he applied a new claim. But as I like to tell everybody, some's better than none.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Drew Keenan, VFW Post 2681.
About the sleep apnea.
Yeah,
You
go
were
ahead, Belinda.
He was talking about the sleep apnea. Yes, that is one of those disabilities that sometimes is hard to get service connected to. But the ones I've worked with, I've always recommend to my veteran or tell my veteran that nexus letter is the most important document. If you can get your healthcare provider, and normally it has to come from a sleep disorder physician, see if you can get them to prepare a nexus letter for you. That's how you are at a better advantage of getting sleep apnea. You have to have that nexus letter.
And I want to add to that also, on Nexus letter, a lot of vets will take and go to their general physician to try to get that letter. You want to go to the specialist. So if you're trying to get a Nexus letter for your knee, back, whatever, hearing, eyes, you need to go to the specialist and get those Nexus letters from the specialist. Those specialist Nexus letters hold a lot more weight than a general practitioner or your regular doctor, family doctor.
And
I
add one thing to those Nexus
Drew
letters?
Keenan, VFW Post 2681.
One sec.
A question on the Nexus letters.
Hold up there, Killer. Alan Eden had the floor. Go ahead, Alan.
So on those Nexus letters, something very important to remember, the doctor may say that they think it's related to your military service. What you really need them to say is the medical rationale and medical evidence to support that rationale of how it is related back to your medical service. You know, with the sleep apnea, that's where a lot of veterans, they think they got it because they went to the doctor, their sleep study says, yeah, I think it's related to your medical service. But if they don't say why it's related to your medical service, that leaves the door open to the VA to deny that, because they need a rationale to why it was related. So make sure that's in there, because if the doctor just says, yeah, I think it is, that's not going to really get them anywhere. They need that why. That's the most important part.
Absolutely. Drew Keenan, you got the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Regarding the Nexus letter, you made a statement some time back in this that, you know, a lot of VA doctors will refuse to write a Nexus letter. If your primary care or your only care comes through the VA and you can't get that, first of all, how can the doctor, if you need that to make a VA claim, how could a VA doctor refuse if if it is service connected and it's reasonable to assume, how can he refuse to write the letter? Under what protocol can he refuse to write that letter?
Belinda answered that question during her class. It's their policy. They have the option to do that letter. They don't have to do it. And it's all depend on clinics.
And that is correct. As I said before, there's a directive that said they can do it, but it's not saying they have to do it. And depending on what clinic that healthcare provider is working out of, if they have a policy for that clinic that they're not to provide Nexus letter, and sometimes they're saying it's a conflict of interest. So I always recommend to my veterans, see what kind of relationship you have with your healthcare provider, because some are willing to do. I've had veterans who went to a specialist in the VA, and the specialist wrote a glowing Nexus letter for them. Then I had a veteran who went to a healthcare provider in VA that said they would not do it. So it's up to the clinic, it's up to the healthcare provider, and I always recommend to have a good relationship with your healthcare provider, because then they're willing to assist you with Nexus letters or supporting documents.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
This is James George from Post 4583. Guys are talking about strong letters and everything else. I've got in my own case talking about the PTSD as secondary type emphasis and everything else. If you have a good, strong letter from like social worker who does you see as a therapist and everything else, they can sit there and help write some of those, use the clinician explanations and everything else that doctors and evaluators sit there and can relate to, and it can help your veteran boost their percentages up on it, even just on a mental health type claim and everything else. So sometimes, like you said, Billy and Belinda, that a strong Nexus letter or strong supporting documents will help that veteran out. So yes, I'm a true believer in help getting those letters too to support any type of claim.
And it's always good to get a letter from your doctor that you see on the regular basis, because per VA regulations, they need to weigh your doctor's letter and your doctor's medical opinion above any examiner's opinion, because that examiner only sees you once. Your doctor sees you day in and day out. So getting this letter, getting medical opinions from your actual doctor that you see can really help a veteran's case go a long way, even if it's secondary, just to go along with an exam or to repudiate an exam. If they go to one and they feel it was done inadequately, you can bring that exam right to their own doctor, and their doctor can pick it apart point by point. I've used that in many appeals to win. So that is always a good thing to remember.
Comrade Allen, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I always advise my veterans, if you are under the care of a healthcare provider, see about getting them to do that Nexus letter first, because they know your disability. They've seen the ins and outs of the disability versus going to a C&P exam where that examiner is seeing you for the very first time, and normally it's only for an hour to evaluate your disability. So I always encourage my veterans to see their healthcare provider for that Nexus letter.
Any other questions?
I got one more question, Mike McGee,
Go ahead, sir.
2872. I'm talking to, I was working with a veteran, and religiously I was working with him through his tendonitis and tinnitus, and then he had trouble with his blood sugar. He was on dialysis. And then I talked with him the other day. He told me that he don't want to, no offense, but he said he didn't want to work with me no more because he's going through his congressman. I mean, look like we're having a problem with, hearsay, hearsay as far as what a veteran told me to go through my congressman, because, we not working fast enough as far as service officers. Did you find any of these incidents lately?
Well, you're gonna have, like in the military, you got the barracks lawyers. You're gonna have the vets who are the, I guess, want to be subject matter experts. And I don't claim to be a subject matter expert, but what I do is I surround myself with successful people like Belinda. Joel Willis worked for Department of Georgia Veteran Services for many years. Matter of fact, he was kind of my motivator to become a service officer, because I seen the ability to make a difference. You're not going to please everybody, and of course, doing a congressional is an option. And since you said that, comrade, I want to add. So you're going to every once in a while run into these vets. They've filed a claim through DAV, changed their power of attorney, went to American Legion, changed their power of attorney. Now they're at the VFW. Make sure you're asking the right questions. And that's the great thing. If they file an e-benefits, or excuse me, va.gov, you can look at the historical claims. And when you click on historical claims and you see all these claims they filed, and it's for the same thing, at the end of the day, if it doesn't coincide with CFR 38, they're not going to get the increase or get what they're looking for. I mean, that's the Bible of how they adjudicate and present you with that percentage. So that's why when I got a veteran that's questioning something, I got CFR 38 on my laptop. I bring it up, and I got two screens in my office. I got a screen facing them, and I got my screen. I go, see right here, boom, boom, boom. And then they're reading it black and white off the va.gov webpage. And I always tell them, hey, I'm getting all my stuff from va.gov. You're more than glad to go on there. All I'm trying to do is assist you. I'm just trying to assist you to make sure your I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and make sure you are putting everything you can into that letter. I mean, and I'm not dinging Department of Georgia Veteran Service Office, but they got all these people come through. They're not going to sit down and help a veteran write a letter to explain their claim or reach out and do buddy letters. I'll give you an example. I had a veteran who had been denied 4 times. And the only thing he was claiming was hearing. Korean War veteran on the most decorated Navy vessel with the highest ranking officer killed in the Korean War or the Navy. Been denied, been denied, been denied. I was at his house, went over, talked to the family, and I looked up and he had a hat and it said reunion. I said, oh, do you attend the reunions for that ship? He says, yeah, I attend every year. I've never missed one in 20 plus years. I was like, oh, okay. I went on Facebook, found out they had a Facebook page. I sent the administrator a message saying, hey, I'm trying to help this veteran. Could you send a message out to your members that I'm trying to get some buddy statements and reference this incident that happened on such and such date on the ship they were on? I ended up getting pictures of the damage of the ship from that day, and I ended up getting 5 notarized buddy statements within 2 weeks. I resubmitted his claim, and it got approved immediately. And his hearing aids were over $8,000. That was one happy vet, and he was so happy he became a life member of my post. I'm just saying. So, you're not getting. That's where I feel we as fellow veterans are working with fellow veterans, and we can go a little bit farther than they can those offices, because they got so many people going through them offices. And what you're doing is you're showing the veteran how to use automation to manage their stuff, because there's nothing. I mean, it takes me, I don't know how many of you use the online medication. Every 3 months I go on there, it takes me less than 5 minutes. I log on, go click, 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 submit, done. I need an appointment. I don't sit on hold for 45 minutes to an hour. I send a secure message to my doctor, say, hey, my back's acting up. I need to get into the clinic. Normally within 24 to 48 hours, the nurse is calling me, hey, I got an appointment at such and such date. Thank you, ma'am. I take the appointment and move on. I didn't have to sit on the phone. I'm making automation work for my advantage, and I'm just teaching other folks how to do that. And when you do that, they appreciate it, especially when you're making families' lives better. And just remember, every claim that we help get approved, be it initial claim, an increase, pension, I've put at least 10 veterans in the homeless veterans program, got them the education, got them back on their feet, got them jobs. You're improving people's quality of life. And all of us, I'm sure, cherish that. So when we can help others improve their quality of life, that's a win-win for our organization. Because trust me, when you help those vets and their families, the word gets around town, hey, the VFW help my dad or help my grandma. I've been in Walmart and other stores throughout my community, and people I don't even know walk up to me and say, hey, thanks for helping my grandpa or my uncle or my dad, whatever, with their claim. And I'm like, oh, you're very welcome. So it's a win-win for our organization. And as Belinda said, and I always say, the service officer should be the #1 recruiter in your post. Bottom line, that's my personal opinion, and I ain't found anybody to argue the difference with me yet. Any other questions?
I'm satisfied.
Well, I appreciate it. I apologize I didn't have my PowerPoint slides, but my slides
One
are
more
as pretty
question.
as Belinda's. Go ahead, sir.
Steve Busby, 4392. Is it any need in beating a dead horse? If you're 100% and you have multiple things listed anyway, what pushed me over the top was I had to take shots for the prostate cancer. So it was listed as chemotherapy, but I also have sleep apnea. And it obviously, I'm going to say it's related. I flew an airplane. Sometimes I'd go a whole month, 12 hours, and live on a 12-hour schedule. Wake up at 1 o'clock, fly 12 hours, go to bed, maybe 12 o'clock noon, go again. You know, all I'm saying is I'm 100%. Is it worth me pushing for more for a bit?
Hey, Belinda, I'm going to answer this question based off what knowledge I have. So if I get it wrong or you could caveat, I'd appreciate it. So I'm going to use my own personal experience. I was medically retired out of the military through the IDES program, and I received 100%. While I was in the Wounded Warrior program and had already initiated the med board process, once you do that through IDES, you cannot add any additional items. I came down with cancer, stomach cancer. So I had to, I found out and I had to wait. And I spent 2.5 years in the Wounded Warrior program. I got cancer literally 3 months after I started the process and couldn't add it to my claim. They treated me for it, but I couldn't add it. This is what I was told. And I retired in 2015, and I was told this just as I was leaving the military, that you got to be very careful, and this is something every one of you need to listen, because you can get yourself in a whole lot of hot water and get off somebody's Christmas list really quick. The minute a veteran reopens a claim, that means the VA can reevaluate all your ratings. I have seen more than once where ratings they had for years get brought down. And they don't gain nothing. In some cases, they end up losing. They were 70%. I've seen 90% and turn around and end up with a lower rating in the end. What I was told was, if you're 100% and what you're wanting to add may be something you could down the road be a cause of death, you probably want to go back and add it. Why is that? It's very simple. A lot of people don't know this, but when the veteran passes, and the veteran passes of a service-connected disability, the spouse is entitled to 50% of their disability for the rest of their life, as long as they do not remarry or they attain the age of 65. And I believe that age requirement just changed to something else. I don't know it off the top of my head. But because I had cancer in my stomach, and I had cancer again since I've been out, I went back and added, and that was the only thing I added. And I was blessed. They didn't mess with me because I did it right away within the first 12 months of me being out and starting to draw my VA benefits. And they added that to my file. So I guess you got to look at it. That would be the only benefit by you going back is if you think it's something that you're going to pass from, that would basically, guarantee, be something that your spouse could benefit from. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question, sir? You're muted. You're muted.
Now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Hang on. I'm saying that it's, like you said, it's probably not to beat the dead horse. You got all you're going to get, and like you said, unless you're going to pass away from it, it's not worth the effort.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm happy. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And I guess I must have answered it right because Belinda or Joel didn't chime in, so I guess I'm good.
You did good.
Any other questions?
The only thing I was going to add to that is once you receive 100%, I don't care what your overall rating is, the most you're going to get compensated for is 100%. And with any, especially monthly compensation to that. And also, listening to Commander Bill Miles, and yes, I always, it's a case-by-case basis with me when I talk to a veteran, and I encourage veterans, if you have a service, have a disability, you're at 100%, you have a disability, and that disability is not a life-threatening disability, I recommend you to stand down. And the reason why I say that is because once you get 100%, VA doesn't mess with you anymore. The only time VA looks at you is when you open the door for them to look at you. So I always recommend to my veterans if it's not a life-threatening disability, maybe because you're going to get treated for it anyway if you're at 100%. So, but it's always a case-by-case basis with me, depending on the veteran. I encourage them because I've seen veterans who were at 100% and they submitted a claim for a foot condition and they end up going from 100% and went from 100% to zero in just that one claim. So I always encourage my veterans to look at it and before submitting a claim for an issue that is not life-threatening.
I got one thing. Can I add something to that? If from my understanding, okay, if you're 100%, but if you're not permanently or totally, even though you got 100% rating, you can be reevaluated and knocked back down, correct?
Yes.
So
that is
Alan Alden.
And,
Alan Eaton.
Oh, sorry.
Commander?
Go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, if you're not permanently and totally disabled, technically, yes, the VA can reevaluate you depending on how long you've been or been at that evaluation. But for the most part, if you're not messing with it and it's a condition that isn't going to get better, if you're 100% because you've got PTSD, a bad back, bad knees, those are things that aren't going to fix themselves. So those aren't going to get better.
Right.
The VA generally doesn't look at you for that. If you're 100% for a condition that can be cured or get better, i.e. something like cancer, we see this a lot with prostate cancer where they're rated at 100% for the prostate cancer. They have a prostatectomy. Now they're not technically have prostate cancer. They might be getting reduced from that 100%. Now is when we need to start talking about the secondary conditions that go along with that. So erectile dysfunction, the other, the conditions that go along with that. So technically, yes, you can be, but really the only time the VA is going to look at that is if it's a condition that can improve with treatment. And generally, veterans aren't going to see that, once they hit that 100%, especially if they're at a certain age, it's rare if anyone's over 60 and they're at 100%, unless it's something that's going to be cured, that the VA is going to come calling on you. unless you, because again, once you put in that claim, you've opened yourself up to everything else to be reevaluated. So, you know, I used to always tell my veterans, if you're at 100%, you're at the top of the mountain. There's only one direction to go from here. You know, you can get that special monthly compensation, but is it worth it?
Yeah. Well, that's what I tell them. You know, I mean, like I said, if you got 100%, you don't mess with nothing else. But I know if you can get the rating as permanently and totally, then I know you don't have to worry. But that's just what I'm saying, because I had a veteran this past year, you know, he come up and he was talking to me. He said, Harold, he says, I got knocked down from 100% to 70. I said, okay, let me ask you a question. I said, what happened? He said, well, I got reevaluated. I said, well, apparently that one that you were getting a percentage was, they stated that you got better, you know? So, I mean, it can happen unless you can get a permanently and totally on your 100%, then you don't have to worry. But that's what I tell a lot of my veterans as well. You know, you want that PNT rating at 100%, being permanently and totally. But even at 100%, if you're not, you know, if something does get better, or they see that when you go back for an examination and it's worded that way, boom, guess what happens? They can knock you back down, correct? Yeah, I just wanted to, you know, clarify that for some of the guys. You know, like I said, if you get 100%, don't dick with it. Excuse my language. Just let it lie. You don't need no more than that. That's how you're going to get paid for it. And I do understand that. But like I said, but some veterans, they don't listen. And I notice that they get, you know, like I said, this past year, I had one come to me and talk to me. I said, well, look, I said, even though you got knocked down from that, I said, you know, from the primary injury, I said, did you file any for your secondaries? You know what I mean? So, like I said, I try to, like, you know, I try to inform them everything that I can, what I know. And like I said, and that's all you can do. Like, you know, everything I've heard in these past 2 classes, you know, it's on the head. It's good information, guys. Thank you.
I just want to finish up, and hold up, I got to scroll up here because I want to get the right. Rob from Post 8385. I don't know how many of you are watching the group message. He just wanted me to speak of the CMP exams. For those that don't know, effective 11/01/2020, the VA is only using third-party claim examiners, the primary ones, but not only ones in Georgia are VES, LHI, and QTC. Make sure your veterans know that, because as soon as they submit that fully developed claim, they're going to be contacted. And I cannot emphasize, do not miss your appointments, because once you do, you're going to play crazy. So I'm going to conclude that. Hopefully everybody got something out of this. I want to personally thank State Commander Joel Willis and Belinda for doing this, because I think this is something we got to do, because we got to use technology to our advantage. And at this time, I will turn it over to Joel Willis, our State Commander.
First of all, I was very, very surprised with the knowledge base that Commander Miles has extruded, especially for someone who hasn't went to the official class. You did an outstanding job. Belinda, you did an outstanding job as always. Now, we also have a certified service officer amongst our midst, and that was the one I just named for, who was a department service officer for the state of North Carolina prior to him coming down here work Humana. Okay, I see it, Alan. He's a national service officer also, so you know, the wealth of knowledge is there. But it's just 3 questions that I want to answer that came up. Now, one of the things that a comrade brought up was taking it to Congress. Congress has what's called a congressional section. And in the VA, they have a section set aside specifically to work on congressionals that come from your congressman. Now, are they worked any faster? No. Only time they're working any faster is if they have all the documentation, if it's a fully developed claim and things of that nature. But it is such a department at the VA called the Congressional Section that congressmen go directly to to work their claims. The second thing is PTSD. Unlike every other claim, PTSD, the original for PTSD has to be diagnosed by a VA doctor. I know we're going to the third party where we're going to QTC and the rest of them, but although you might be seeing a psychiatrist, psychologist for 10, 15 years, but to get the original diagnosis, it has to be through a VA physician. Now, once a VA physician says that you've been diagnosed with PTSD, then you can add additional information that you have from your psychologist or psychiatrist. But they will not diagnose you with PTSD if you do not have the original diagnosis from the VA. And the last things that everybody was speaking about is very true. You know, if you're 100%, leave it. Because what some veterans, as we used to call those VA lawyers, those compensation lawyers, they say, can you get more than 100%? Now I'm asking the body, can you get more than 100%?
A rating, yes.
Yes, you can. You
Yes.
can. You could get 100%, you could get 160%, and that's housebound and things of that nature, which would take your funds up and everything of that nature. We're gonna go beyond that in the other class, but the most important thing, if you're 100% permanent and total, stay there, unless it's life-induced information like cancer or thing of that nature that we know that your life expectancy, especially if you have a loved one, can and will be affected. But I think it's been an outstanding class. In fact, I know it's been an outstanding class, and I just wanted to thank the expertise that came from Commander Miles and our Department Service Officer. And if the rest of the classes are like this, I am truly proud. Did an outstanding job. That's the only thing I have.
Thank you, Commander. Guys, it's 8:07. I did not want to be on your calendar or on your clocks longer than 8 o'clock. If we have no other questions, we will terminate our class at this time, and we will resume at 6 o'clock p.m. on tomorrow for our next training session.
I do have.
If that's all, go ahead, sir.
Yes, this is going back on the 100% total and permanent. I know there are other times when the 100% total and permanent is based on unemployability, where the veteran is, say, 70%, but they are getting paid at a 100% total and permanent based on unemployability. Now, does the 70%, will that affect them as far as possibly in the future getting that reduced down because they're actually 70%, but 100% due to unemployability?
If you are with individual unemployability, you have told VA because of your service connect disabilities, you're unable to work in any capacity. The only time that will be affected if you go back to work and show the VA that you can work. So as long as you have individual unemployability and you cannot work or are not working because of your service connect disability, things will be okay unless you initiate something to the VA changing that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the classes for this evening. We will reconvene at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Everyone be safe and see you tomorrow. Take care.